Hello, this is Michael, the social media manager at Kenmore Camera with another 5-minute feature. This 5-minute feature is all about the Sigma 16 to 300 millimeter f3.5 to 6.7 DC-OS contemporary lens. That's a lot of things to say about a lens. Well, this lens does a lot of things, so there's lots to say about it. So before we talk about how flexible this lens is, let's talk about what it's available for. So you can get this lens for Fujifilm X cameras, for Sony E-mount cameras, for Canon RF mount coming soon, and then the L-mount system as well. So this lens is available today, as I mentioned, and I'll leave links below if you'd like to buy it online from kenmorecamera.com. So in this series, our goal is to share some information about products that are beyond the bullet points in a social media post. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about or want more information, please leave them down below in the comments and I'll be glad to help you out. Also, obviously come into the store. We'd love to help you there as well. Talk to one of the sales folks on weekdays. I'm in the store, and if you want to talk to me, have someone get me out of the social media cave. So I'd be glad to come talk to you. So let's talk about the versatility of this lens, what this lens is all about. So it's a 16 millimeter, so that's wide angle. It's about 24 millimeter equivalent if you're using full frame lens, a camera, excuse me. And then it zooms all the way to 300 millimeters. So everything from 16 to 300 millimeters, so you can get wide angle. 300 millimeters is equivalent to about 450 millimeters in a full frame camera, which means you get lots of options to create photos with this lens. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so here's a photo in Kirkland, Washington at 16 millimeters of a seagull. That's about 8 to 10 feet away. So you've got the background and you can see the whole scene at 16 millimeters. If you move in a little bit closer, just zoom the lens instead of moving physically. I'm going to zoom with the lens. So here's 51 millimeters, so I'm closer to the seagull. Here's a 92 millimeters, closer still. And then we'll jump to 300 millimeters, so you just got the seagull in the photo. This is really cool, I think, to have this kind of flexibility in one lens. Let's keep going. Here is the 520 bridge. This is probably 2+ miles away from my location, but at 300 millimeters, it looks like it's pretty close. The Seattle skyline is there to the left. And then here's 92 millimeters, so you get to see more of Lake Washington. And then 35, you get to see some of the dock. And then 16 millimeters, you get to see boats and people and a much larger scene. So the cool thing about a lens that has this many options for zoom is you have lots of options for photos from one location. So you have a lens that gives you all sorts of flexibility, and you can do that with a single lens. And if you're like me and kind of clumsy, it's nice not to change lenses. So that's the main purpose of this lens, is to give you those options for creating lots of different photos from one location. The image quality, I think, is quite amazing for this lens. I've got to spend a couple weeks with it, and I really enjoyed creating photos with it. I'll show you a couple photos here. Mostly they're at about 300 millimeters because that's the kind of photos I like. But let me know what you think. If you have any other questions about this lens, again, leave them in the comments below. But here's a couple more photos. So here's a photo at 300 millimeters. One of the neat things about this lens is it still focuses pretty close for a telephoto lens. So you can get a lot of detail in your subject, and even though you're not really physically close. Here's another example of a bee in the Bellevue Botanical Garden. This lens focuses really quickly, really accurately in my experience, and it does a great job with even a small, tiny, fast-moving bumblebee. So that's my experience with a couple photos from this lens, and I really, really like having the option to have just one lens to cover lots and lots of things. Now, one thing I will say about this lens, because there's always a trade-off, this lens is best in daylight. It doesn't get a lot of light through the aperture, doesn't have a very large opening for light to get in through the lens. So that means you're mostly going to be using this lens in daytime. So that's a limit. Also, I mean, it is larger than a single lens. It is a little bit heavier, but it does lots and lots of things. And I think it's a really good value in my experience. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments below. But that's a little more information about the Sigma 16 to 300 millimeter f3.5 to 6.7 DC OS contemporary lens. Let me know what you think.